SATSANG 2. SHANTINILAYA Lifehouse, Spain, July 30, 2020. Well, we're going to go over the second part of the SATSANG, so don't hesitate, don't censor yourself, ask the questions you want, because we talked enough about acceptance. Silence. The grand silence. Elisa, I don't know if you're aware of what we talked about this morning, and all the repercussion it has afterwards on your physical body, and the conditioned reflexes that we constantly had, of wanting to search for the cause. Elisa, there's no question. Everything is clear, that's good. Compared to what Elisa had just said, after discussion in Spanish. The questions. Elisa, when we talk about the divine, what is it? It is the light, it is the absolute. Of what? Elisa, the divine. There's no divine. There's you, that's all. As long as you are praying something external. As long as you meditate, you are in that which passes. Elisa, when you reconnect with your divine part. Yes, when you really and concretely reconnect with your divine part, we could call it the paracult. By the way, we had a channeling of the paracult. It is the spirit of the sun, it is the solar body, but the body, even of light, even on the stage, it passes. Therefore, to think or evoke the divine in oneself or the divine elsewhere is still somewhere imagining that there is a distance, or that there is a time limit to live it. And that does create an illusion. There's neither distance nor delay. Unfortunately, this is how we all function, because of the very fact of confinement. And here I'm not talking about the confinement of the earth, but the confinement of a form, whatever it is. Evidently for the consciousness, for the person, in this world as in all worlds, we're surrounded by forms, we're surrounded by consciousness, which are only fragments. This is what we say when we say, we are all one, there's only one consciousness. It is the first stage of the living of the unity, that we can call the white paradise or the primordial ether, but this primordial ether is the first reminiscence of the origin of the form and of the consciousness. There is still something after, of course, or before, or inside, since it is going to be the whole. It is what we call the absolute. The absolute that is translated today in the facts, in the lived experience, by what I have been telling you about since yesterday. When you enter the space, you are no longer subject to the form that is there, nor to any other form. You are lucid, you have a bodily limit, of course, but the consciousness can really expand or retract, cut, there you go, it's back. So in relation to that, please don't use concepts, or beliefs, that's the best way to be ready for the unexpected, for the unknown. This unknown that the person will never know, but which is nevertheless lived through this person. There's no God or devil, it's all on the stage, but freedom has no God or devil, no entity, no world. In any case, given what is happening right now on the theater stage or on the cosmic stage, you see with the meteorites, there are more and more of them. In fact, the film announcing this is coming out in a few days. Greenland, we had hidden from humans that the meteorites were going to spit on Earth. For those who are curious about history, I invite you to consult the Kelbrin manuscript, which describes the last passage of Nibiru to perfection. However, you will find this description literal, and not only literal, in the Apocalypse of John. The mountains will be turned over, a third of the land will disappear. Do not forget that Nibiru or Herkelbris or Hercogles has been called in other places on Earth, in history, the Great Destroyer. It has also been called the Black Sun, Marduk, it's Sumerian. The last passage, which was a minor passage, was 3,600 years ago, and the real major passage only takes place every 25,000 years. So even the destruction of Atlantis, in 10,731 BC, 10,731, was a minor passage. During the passage of Nibiru, there is an alignment of our solar system with the center of the galaxy, an alignment of our solar system with the galactic center, Sagittarius A, Sagittarius. So, the Nibiru passage is perfectly known, And I would like to add, to put this in perspective, that everything we are living at the moment, the confinement, the viruses, the activity of the riders, earthquakes, volcanoes, meteorites, is hidden from us, because for the elites, the puppets, the strategy is anything but nibber. So the goal is to keep you busy with the confinement, with the virus, with the conflicts, the war of all against all. You must not know that nibber is coming, because in their logic, even chaos must be, as they say, controlled and directed. This is not the case in other countries. In Russia, for example, the Russian people are aware of what is happening. There are underground shelters everywhere. That said, they will not be used, but hey. Because it's true that when we are asking ourselves the question, for the mask, against the mask, it's a virus. It's not a virus. It's just a distraction to prevent us from living the chaos before our time. In Kelbrin's manuscript, this is a perfect description of the human reaction. So if you want to know what's going to happen, go to the movies and see Greenland. Remember that all cinema is total programming. You can't fight the image. You can say it's not true, you can say it's true, it doesn't change anything. It imprints itself on your brain. They've prepared us with a lot of films. Well, there have been so many, it's just predictive programming. And all that if you want, they amuse us, they keep us busy, they put us in fear, the virus, the loss of jobs, so that we don't have the terror of nibber, because I guarantee you the eruption in the sky, in a physical way, and not only the electromagnetic influence which has been very real already for 10 years, but the physical visibility of nibber and its procession of meteorites and toxic gases, will have the effect that has been announced, that is to say the shock. What we are experiencing right now is a shocking sham. All humans, in Kelbrin's testimonies, are eloquent, even those who were prepared, who were waiting for it, are going into a kind of madness. So the important thing is why I insist so much, because in the end, everyone will be freed. In short, when a woman has to give birth, she gives birth, but you know very well that childbirth can be a happy event, but also a painful one. The result is the same, the baby comes out, but the lived experience is not the same. The more many of us will rediscover who we are, the more effectively the shock will be cushioned. But there's no other way to wake up. The nightmare has to be total for you to totally abandon any idea of any future, any dimension, or any world. And there's no better revelator than nibber. Laughter. Elisa translated the virus instead of nibber. You can imagine that the people who are in fear today about this virus, they are simply afraid to die. So you can imagine what the reaction will be when all the trumpets start to sound synchronously all over the earth. It won't be ecstasy, for humanity I'm talking about, but it will be a salutary shock. There were hands that were raised, weren't there? Ah, it's for the air conditioning. Elisa. Yes, the air conditioning, you have to turn it on a little. So are you hot or cold? In chorus. Hot, hot. It burns and at the same time. Elisa. No, because they just went out. When they tell you to be ready for the unexpected, if you're in this posture of acceptance, you will take the shock and digest it. Exclaiming and laughing, Jean-Luc said, you'll cash the check instead of the shock. But it's a blank check anyway. Laughs. Your only landmark today, whatever you're living, agape, resonances, is the quality of peace you experience day to day. I'm not talking about a state of meditation or expansion of consciousness. I'm talking about your natural state. The more you find and cultivate peace yourself, the more peace you will be granted. The puppets, the forces of the puppets, whether they be enlightened, Luciferian or Molochian for the worshippers of Moloch, a ball, we're replaying exactly the same story as in Atlantis, between the children of the Loved One and the children of Blil, who is one of the demons. So it's the same scenario that repeats itself ad infinitum. It's like the cycle of samsara, death, rebirth. As long as you believe what the puppets tell you when you die, the testimonies are very characteristic in the circles. You will not be distracted. You will not be distracted by visions, or by any questioning. Those who will accept to lose their lives will find it. But those who will want to save their lives, will live the feeling of loss and tearing, but will also find freedom. So it is the living conditions have this period that will condition your life. In what state are you in today? Since a few months, do you feel this peace, or do you feel it questioning, without even speaking at fear? Peace is your safe conduct, so the childbirth takes place in the best conditions. And you might as well be enjoy today. It is always what has been announced, the more chaos grows, the more peace grows. Provided that you let go of the pretensions to a new world, or to the return of the old worlds as they say. So if you see the semantics, and, well, if you see the semantics, well, if you see the phrases that are used in the media, a few months ago they were talking about great economic resets, Gesra, and Sarah, finally in terms of money. So this great reset, they call it something else today, they call it the great transition. If you don't understand with that, with the programming films that have been created, for a long time. Alisa was no longer following in translation. Huh? Alisa, I got lost. Huh, you got lost. I don't know what I was saying anymore. Alisa, you were saying with the money, the reset, so the money and Sarah and all that. Yes, that was the part of the dreamers. There are a lot of channelers who talk to you about a world of abundance. It's not material abundance, it's the abundance of love, that's all. And therefore, if today the stage of fear, of confinement, does not affect you, you have repeated the lesson well and you are well prepared for Nibbler. And there is every chance that it will happen very soon. The script is written, even by the puppets, we just follow what the prophets wrote. As I say over and over again, it's all been written. It's just a matter of remembering it. The marker of what you think you are, or what you are, is really this peace, this, in French, this equanimity. You are linear, without effort, without expansion of consciousness. That is also humility and simplicity. It is not to be fooled by any form, by any vision whatsoever. It is indeed to become like a child, in this benevolence, in the child who is in the instant, who is neither tomorrow nor yesterday. To become like a child again, that's it. If you're simple, if you're lucid, everything will be given to you, there's no problem. It's sacrifice and resurrection. It's remembering who we are before form. It's before form is nothing but after form. I say it and I repeat it. Christ said, I am the Alpha and the Omega, but the Alpha is the Omega and the Omega is the Alpha. You all know it. It is the cycle of incarnation. It is samsara. It is the Ouroboros. It is the snake that bites its tail. It is all that is cyclic. So I know the many teachings have talked about the fifth root race, and a sixth root race to come. It is the blue race, but the blue race is the starting point. They are the master geneticists and they're the dream guardians, the cetaceans. It's come full circle and there's no evolution in that. Everybody got screwed, except Biggie, of course. All the spiritual teachers, Melchizedek or otherwise, have told you all about this sixth root race's evolution. No, it's just a return to the starting point. It's the moment of revelation. You come out of the myth of creation, the myth of fall, involution and the myth of evolution. Remember when you're in the clarity, it is not the clarity of the light, it is the liquidity of the instant. You are 100% available for the present instant. You fall in love in front of a flower, you commune with nature, you are nature, with the whales, with Abba, with whomever you want, but you can only see this freedom and this peace that is there. You pass from the externalise mechanism of a gate that I had named at the end a gate resonance interdimensional network, to pass no longer in ecstasy, but in intosize, in the great silence, in the great absolute truth. You cannot have any doubt. Then, of course, all the others will doubt and will call you names, but it is not serious. Remember, many of us are already living it, in totality. At the time there were many testimonies of people who, with the agape resonances, of what was happening. For a few days now, testimonies have been coming in, and I had one this morning, moreover, from people who have left, while following what I was saying, on the side paths, we will say, the crooked ones, which are part of the learning process, all the people who are taken to the world of symbols, to the world of forms, to the world of numbers, which are a deception. They are quickly distracted and they do everything but take you to the present instant. All this I'm not the only one to say. You have many people who have never even heard of chakras, of spirituality, who live exactly the same thing. I'm not going to name them. There are many of them. They are essentially women because they are much more ready than men to this notion of reception. Moreover, they embrace life. They have even created life. So today, the only question you can ask yourself, because it is useful, is am I at peace? Whatever my life, even if it is chaotic, do I feel this peace or not? You cannot look for it in there. It falls on you, if you're available. It is no longer only the descent of the solar body, of the body of eternity. It is no longer only the vibrations of the stars, of the gates. It is no longer only a gate. It is simply the truth of freedom. Of course, life tests us, all of us, the virus, the masks, not the masks, the races, not the races, the religions, not the religions. It is part of the learning. So don't judge yourself, see with lucidity, without looking for a reason, a cause. Are you at peace? I'm not talking about peace in relation to an event, but really about this peace which, when it touches you, can only be recognized. And that is all. There's no need for chakras, for therapy, yes. There's no need for energies, there's no need for vibrations, there's no need for consciousness. If you're simple, in your functioning mechanisms, everything will become simple. If you're complicated, everything will become complicated. It is not a punishment, it is just a learning process. The sooner you leave the beliefs, the concepts, the memories, the sooner you will be rid of the collective soul of the world. Unfortunately, the functioning of the human being is always referred to the past. What I have named in the first part, the known, must give way to the unknown. If you do not live it, and even while living it, you cannot define it, because as soon as you take out the words that are related to this state, it is already a betrayal of the truth. You've never moved. It's not a play on words, it's reality. The closer you get to the unspeakable, the more easily you will notice the disappearance of fears. The smile will take all your moments, because the state of humor is our natural. It is not derision, it is the smile to life. It is something that cannot be understood intellectually, emotionally, vibrating or energetically. It is something that is found in the intimacy of the self and that leads you to this peace. As long as you seek, you cannot find, because what you seek is you. It will never be in society, energetic, never in a group, never under the authority of someone. It is you and you alone who decide. So there, as I say, right behind it, there's this total felicity that does not take you out of this world, that does not take you out of the world, but that fully enrolls you, that fully seats you in the simplicity of childhood. Your intelligence, in the noble sense, develops then, beyond all reflection. Intelligence is the ability to connect things. It is actually seeing the masquerade and the dream aspect. It is a dream of what creation is. How can we all have been so deceived by all the religions that have told us that we have to deserve paradise, that we have to be afraid of hell, that we have to improve, that we have to get up in vibration, very useful at a given moment, to see the theater stage. But as Biddy said, there's no theater. Creation is a total myth. We're perfect, really, without delay. Anyone who doesn't tell you that, has never lived freedom, otherwise they wouldn't be able to talk like that. There's no more karma than evolution, you've been led to believe that. But in fact you had to get out of the very notion of involution, what we call in the Indians, it's, Kaliniya. Today you're freed. The good news, as I called it, is for everyone, but many brothers and sisters, out of fear, refuse the good news. Because as we know, as it is written, Kali Yuga is the materialistic era. It is the ego which means mask and which hides the truth, and there they put a double layer on you. I will dwell on the occult ritual of the muzzle. The mask is an occult ritual. It's part of cinema, that's all. You don't have to fight it, you have to be lucid. Just because I publish articles about the mask or the 5Gs doesn't mean I want to fight against it. Just like the horrible images that come out all over the place about adrenochrome, about pedophilia, we're all of those things, all of us at the same time. So there's a need to light this theater scene until it's consumed by elation. We are in the strangest bottleneck where everything comes together at the same 0 point. All the prophecies, all the conflicts, in families, in countries, in regions. This is the Great Resolution and not the Great Transition, as they call it, the Great Transition. That is it. So of course, from the point of view that you have, if you're still somewhere in the idea of being a person, who needs to purify yourself perhaps, today, well you're not available, it is as simple as that. Elisa, what if you put the vaccine on and you don't identify yourself with the body? You have what we call DNA and RNA. The destruction of Atlantis was triggered when we manipulated the DNA. The appearance of chimers, human-animal, genetic manipulation, signed the death warrant of Atlantis. Today we are at exactly the same point. Steiner had warned us, their goal was to annihilate the soul, dissociate the soul and consciousness from the biological body. Speak with young people, you will be surprised to see the number of young people who are only waiting for one thing, is to enter the machine, and no longer have a body. Yes, the consciousness survives the body. So, transhumanism is that, it is clearly admitted, it is to replace man by the machine, in order to make the consciousness eternal, and the descent of the consciousness into the second dimension, that is to say the binary circuits of electronics. It is our goal, immortality, not in the body, but in the consciousness. The consciousness is a disease, fortunately it is fatal, as I say. It is it which created the dream, the projection, the forms, the worlds, the dimensions, all that it is, the geneticist mothers, the Hot-Hot-Kedge, the triangles, the source, Metatron. It is the dream that we build. If you accept peace, you will live peace. You have nothing to ask, you have nothing to expect, it is instantaneous. If you do not live instantaneously, it is because there are still within you some beliefs, some habits that are not seen, that are not transcended. This peace cannot, Elisa. Those who are going to get the vaccine, are they going to go to the absolute? They will live it the same way. But if there is a delay, for example, between the vaccine and Nibiru, absolutely no one can predict the sequence of events. So there used to be a definite timetable, with a definite order. The surprise is that there's no order anymore. It could be the bursting of Nibiru, the trumpets before. In fact, what society concocts, what society proposes to you is simply this choice. Are you submissive or are you autonomous? Are you prisoners or are you free? Society, as you can see, is shrinking, is reduced to nothing. The economic crisis is nothing compared to what is happening, isn't it? And take advantage of this temporal urgency, we will say, this urgency of the theater scene, to live peace. If you live the energies, all the better, you feel them, but if you feel nothing, you are even closer to the truth. Everything is done to shake you up, to scare you, but the bad boys have forgotten that fear, at a certain point, leads to resilience. The human being has never been as good as in the moments when all is lost. It implements what we call survival reflexes. It's the man who walks across a bridge and sees a child drowning and dives in to fetch him, even if he can't swim. This self-preservation reflex, which is nevertheless inscribed in the reptilian brain, leads to freedom. I'm telling you, the script was perfectly written and, as they said, perfectly put together. There's no mistake. It's going perfectly. If you don't see it that way, it's just that you're afraid of death, afraid of the disappearance of consciousness. Grandpa had said it, fear or love, and it was added after, just before the epidemic, to the false pandemic, that there was suffering or love. When you suffer to the extreme, you let go, and the resilience is there. When fear is extreme, it is no longer called fear, it is fear and seizure. Fear is being dumbfounded, but even this fear is the most terrible fear that necessarily leads to resilience. That too is neuroscience. In other words, when you get tired of being subject to any authority, however legal and societal, then you will enter into morality, but not a cheap or gutter morality, but the real morality, which is that of the child and of innocence. At some point, many have already understood that you will no longer be able to deal with this world and this society. It will become intolerable for you. If you're afraid, you will make the vaccine. If you're autonomous, you will withdraw from this world and this society. At home, you will cut off the internet and you will enter into this beatitude. You will have no other choice anyway. Believing that you have a choice between fear or love, between suffering and love, is the ultimate illusion. There's only love, that is all. And we are invited to discover it every minute, while cleaning the house, while looking at the stars, while looking at the child, the husband, the wife. The true beauty is there. It is not in the escape, in the visions of the world, all that is morbid cinema. It's no longer time to dream, it's time to be real, and that's done instantly, even if stability will take a few days, a few weeks, but it's really the ultimate decision you think you'll make, the preservation of the dream at any price, or freedom. The Illuminatus, the puppets, they don't want the end of life, but the perpetuation of the life of the dream, the perpetuation and continuation of life. They don't want destruction. Besides, they have built underground shelters hoping to come out afterwards. But they are all going to burn in their boxes, because the alignment with the galactic center in Idade is going to see a fantastic outpouring of the whole Earth. And the light, it burns. It's the exotic particles of V, and it's mostly gamma radiation that usually does a very bad job with carbonaceous matter. It'll be a burnout. Some people, at first, will live with it as a horrid burn. When NL came and showed me this consummation, before Ultra's dimensions really started, every night I had to live the consummation. I was terrorized, and every night he would tell me, hic ignorance, hic ignorance. I didn't even know what it meant, hic ignorance, here and now. I said to myself, I came across a crazy archangel, I'm burning, and he tells me here and now, because it is something else to have lived the absolute and all the dimensions, even in the heart of the heart, than to see the disappearance of that form, collectively. It is a wave that will effectively install the white paradise, as it had been explained. After 3 days everyone will fall into lethargy, into stasis, as some have already lived at the beginning of 2018 and in 2019, but with an intensity that no one can appreciate. If today you cultivate this peace, this tranquility, this laziness, as Escher said, this divine indifference as OMA specified, then freedom is there. There will be no other alternative. Already it is repetition with the virus, the new world order and everything. But as it is written, and you can't change a single comma of what was written before you even dreamt it, there's no need to worry. The worry comes from the fear of death, from the one who has not yet seen that he has never been born, and who believes that he is only a succession of deaths and lives, and rebirths, who perhaps still believes that he is subject to some kind of conditioning. Freedom and truth are unconditional, like love. We speak of unconditional love. I know that this word has been used, but beatitude, this agape love, today is present in what you are manifesting in this world. Go back to the foundations, if you wish, to the 4 pillars. Let life flow and your life will flow. There's no question of being passive. As you can see, I publish a lot of stuff, but then again, there's absolutely no pro or opposition objective, but it's really aligning. It's like the morbid images of pedo-Satanists there. You have to have the courage to look. This is our creation. We didn't just create beauty, there ought to be the antitheses, otherwise we would be stunned by beauty, and we would have forgotten even more easily what we are. Any questions about that? Elisa, we won't have any more silica bodies. Oh no, not even that anymore. It's just a transition like the self. The self is not the truth. The self is a stage. But of course, there's a pedagogy. Even Nizargadatra at the beginning was talking about the self. He was saying, hold firmly the self until we reveal ourselves. Keep that in mind, all the time, the self, even if you don't know what it is. And at the end of his life he said, let go of the self is the trap, because there's no more form. There's the famous white paradise with the incredible white light, but ask yourself, where does the white light come from? It comes from black and nothingness. I'm not talking about shadows. Besides, it is perfectly known in the teaching of true Kabbalah. I am not talking about the Kabbalah of thee. It is well known that Keter is the crown, that above Keter there is Ayin, the light, and that above the light there is the Ein Sof air, which is beyond the light. What Dr. Eben Alexander tells us as well, what I tell you as well, what I tell you, what many others tell us, what the NDES tell us, a few percentages of the near-death experiences, which did not let themselves be stopped at the exit of the tunnel by Christ, Buddha, or family members. There are people who used to find their way in space, a plane pilot, a helicopter pilot, an engineer. They didn't stop, they go through these ghosts and these empty shells. The difference is very simple to make. A beam of light, the light is inside the form. When you do an NDE, a near-death experience, you go through the tunnel, the lower astral planes, you come out of the tunnel. If you're Christians you see Christ, if you're Buddhists you see Buddha. It is because they see the light behind these beings who say no, you must return to earth. There are some who pass through these ghosts. Well, I end what I was saying, a light being, the light is inside, bad sound and audibility, oh no, it's back, sound, it's good. Here we are, we've re-established communication, but you haven't lost anything. So, I was in the distinction between beings of light and ghost beings. I investigated a lot about near-death experiences and their association. In the near-death experience, Big Christ, Buddha, Muhammad, in the passage that welcomes you, the light is outside the form. It signs the astral, the light is never outside. Revisit the movie predictions. You have the Elohim at the end who come to take the children to a new world. You have these diaphanous characters, where you vaguely see a human form. The light is inside, and with a fire coming out of here, which is really the structure of the Elohim. If you paid attention, there were lots of crystals on the ground, stones, polished pebbles, the obsidian. Answer to a question in Spanish. Obsidian is silica. It's a volcanic stone, and it was the stone that was used in Atlantis. The priests would enter obsidian rooms, put a blue sapphire on their foreheads, rooms entirely made of obsidian. These pieces exist, they have not yet been found. They're on the hills at the height of the Teotihuacan site in Mexico, the city of the gods. The obsidian has an important role. It is the transmutation of fire into matter, so it is the descent into the dream. You see, so it's very inspired these predictive programming films. Back to my story. Repeats NDE paragraph. I was saying that beings who used to find their way in space were not stopped by these ghosts. Those beings who pass through these false beings of light and these false family members, enter the sun. This is white heaven. This is Ayin, this is what comes after the coronation, the white light. And then some of them cross the sun to go to the other side of the sun. And there's nothing left, no shape, no space, no time, no light. This is the abode, the true abode. This is exactly what will happen in the collective scenario. Your body will be in vibration, in stasis. If you care about matter, you will cling to your body. Well, at some point, anyway, you will let go. At that moment, you will have the impression that you're taking off, but in fact you will go back inside, since there's no more inside or outside, and there you will remember. And I guarantee that no one, so the puppets have told us that no one will be able to oppose the New World Order. I guarantee that no one will want to return to the bosom of any form, of any world, because the lived experience of that moment is the lived experience of a consciousness. There's no thought, no movement, no energy, no form, there's nothing, and yet there's everything. And that is exactly how it happens. In shamanic journeys, either Castaneda and others, Rington. The battery's dead. So I say goodbye. We'll finish up to by Jean-Luc Ayoun. Less transformations. English Revised Translation, LMF.